Why? What do we have here? Do we have a camera alert? Filming me? Once again? After a month-long absence? Once again on my YouTube channel? Well, what kind of film are we going to review today? That'll do.
The filming Daniel.
Hey guys, it's Daniel here, finally back with new movie reviews, back with a new year of the Filming Daniel channel, and this is actually going to be the 5th year of my YouTube channel, so in August it'll be my 5th anniversary on YouTube, so wonder what's coming for that. Anywho, what movie have I chosen to review for my comeback? Well, instead of going with something epic, dramatic, awesomely intimidating and exhilarating as an action movie or a Walking Dead project or a fantastic animated Disney movie, this time I've decided to go with something a little different. It's almost like... Okay, let me just go for a quick history. You see, one of the first videos that I did, at least the first 3 videos I did for my 2019 video collections, was a review of Luc Besson's Arthur trilogy. They suck. But, actually, they don't suck in a way, but they just feel very phoned in and not the best editing. But, apparently, those videos were actually some of my biggest videos on the channel. So, why was that? Well, I think it could be due to the fact that not a lot of people have seen those movies, because they're very obscure animated movies, so that's probably why those videos got a lot of hits. So, might as well try something like that again. Review a movie that I don't think everybody has heard of, but am I actually the one who actually felt like this movie was everywhere? Well, not everywhere. What movie could I be discussing? Well, it's the 2022 animated fantasy movie called The Amazing Maurice. So, what is The Amazing Maurice about? Well, based on the original book, The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents, this movie is about a streetwise cat, obviously named Maurice, who travels from town to town making a quick buck with the help of a group of rodents, aka rats, and a boy who plays a pipe named Keith. They're basically going from town to town pretending to put on a show about getting rid of the rats with the help of Keith's pipe, thinking he's the Pied Piper, until they come across one town that seems to be having a bit of a rat missing, food missing crisis going on, because one of the members of that town, who calls himself the Boss Man, is capturing rats. We don't know how or why, or why the food is there, but he is up to something. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what he's doing, but he's not up to no good. So while the rats are trying to figure out what's going on, Maurice and Keith end up coming across a book-loving girl named Alicia, who seems to have a bit of annoying information about a lot of books and how their structures come across. So, thinking that her love of books will help solve this mystery of the town, Maurice, Keith and Alicia go off throughout the town trying to figure out what's going on and how to stop this crisis from happening, because it could result in something dangerous happening to the rats. Now, when I said earlier that I felt like this movie was kind of everywhere, but not in particularly everywhere, well, what I mean by that is that I actually can't remember this film being advertised, like, for a while. Like, on IMDb, or on TV with trailers, or on giant billboards that actually had the film's poster. I never thought it would get that advertised, but apparently it is. So, why is that the case? Well, it could either have something to do with, like, just the idea, or that the voice cast is made up of very well-known British actors, but what is one of the reasons why it was so advertised, and the fact that they had to advertise it everywhere at once? Oh, that's probably why. Yep, Sky Cinema was the one that helmed this project for a bit when it showed it on TV, and now it's in theaters, like, in everywhere, I think. So I decided to wait a while to review this movie, but can I just say that I was actually one of those people who was actually kind of excited to see this movie. I will admit that I have not read the original book that this film was based on. I remember seeing the first trailer and I thought it was okay, but when the film started to get closer and closer, I somehow felt a bit more excited to see the movie. So I finally got to see it in December 16th, 2022 on Sky Cinema. And again, I've seen this movie twice now, so my two viewings of this movie are going to be completely different. My first viewing of the movie, well, when I was at that high point, like getting pretty excited to see the movie, I have to say that when I first saw this movie for the first time on Sky Cinema, I didn't like it. No, I didn't like it when I first saw this movie. Again, this is my second viewing, so the first viewing, I didn't like it. I just felt it was annoying, like they didn't put that much effort into it, they just decided to make it all crazy and comedy as possible, so I just didn't like it. And I was getting ready to tear this movie apart, but again, I just decided to wait until it was released in cinemas in February to be able to review this movie as a whole. So I watched it for the second time, and I'm actually glad I didn't review it back then, because watching it again for this video, I've actually really grown to like this movie. The Amazing Maurice didn't win me over back in December, but totally has now. I cannot talk about how this might be one of the most extraordinary movies I've seen. Not because it was that great, but because it actually kind of changed my viewing at a high point the second time I watched it. Why? Well, let's get into this review then, shall we? First off, I will say the animation isn't the best, but, you know, it has a bit of colour and enchantment to it. I like the kind of downer grade of the animation, because it actually helps to, like, get into some info about, like, the kind of fairy tale aspect, but also just commentating about how this fairy tale is not like any other fairy tale. It could have something to do with the very annoying commentary, but I'll just discuss that later. But the animation is pretty good. Not the best, but still pretty good. I mean, the design for the rats was great, the animation for the humans is great. The animation for Maurice, it is pretty good, but I also can't deny how he looks like... I can't deny how he seems to be looking like he's the son of Garfield and the Cheshire Cat. But you know, the animation is pretty good. One of the greatest aspects I will say about this movie has to be the voice acting. The voice actors in this movie fit very well for this movie that they are making. Hugh, Laurie, perfect casting for Maurice. He adds his posh British accent to the role, making him come off as very smooth and charming, but also a little bit of an edge side. I applaud Hugh Laurie's performance. While I can't say I'm too fond of the character of Militia, I did really like Emilia Clarke's energy to performance, because she's definitely at a high level of energy for this animated girl character. While her voice does get annoying, but I think that's mainly because of the character, and we'll get to that later, I do think that she did try her best with the material she's given. I am interested to see her get more voice performances after this film. David Thewlis as the villain? Great casting as well. He's very mysterious, very intimidating in the role. The voice actors for the rats were great. Gemma Adjeton as the character of Peaches, I do believe that's how you pronounce her name, was really great as well. But in my opinion, the best voice actor in the entire film is the 10th Doctor himself, David Tennant, providing the voice of Dangerous Beans, the rat who's like almost the fortune teller of the rat community. I think his voice fit very well. He made Beans come off as likable, sympathetic, and you can tell the determination he is to put this character into use of making peace among rats and humans. And I'll get to that character later, but David Tennant, great voice acting. I will admit that I did like the world building for this community of rats and for the landscapes of the location that the characters are in. There's something very mysterious, but also very enlightening about this town, that you do end up feeling sorry for the town. You want it to get its food back and figure out what the mystery is, hoping to save this town. And I liked the different locations that the characters would go in. I mean, I know they spend most of the time in this town, but in the opening and in some parts in the woods, I did really like it. It was definitely something that was definitely adapted from a storybook. As for the characters, well, I will admit that, in my opinion, the greatest aspect of this movie has to be the rats. Every scene with them just really elevated the movie to a higher level and reminded me that it was actually one of the few saving graces about the movie when I first saw it for the first time, and I can definitely see why for a second time. There's something very endearing about the community of rats as they help each other out, help to survive through this world, coming up with different ideas to get out of the situation. And you definitely feel the camaraderie, the community, and the family that they share among each other. Especially the three main rats: Dangerous Beans, Peaches, and Dark Tan. Dark Tan is like the leader of the rat community, and who wouldn't see a hero in this guy? He's very fierce, he's very strong, he's very willing to protect his community, like literally. No matter what danger he's in, either a human or a bigger animal than him, he's a guy that is convinced that he could take that threat on, and usually he actually can. He almost reminds me of Stoic from How to Train Your Dragon. Peaches is a very endearing character. You definitely feel that she cares for the community she's in, but also is longing for a better life than having to go around causing scams with Maurice. So when she does get very upset and realizing that not everything is as she thought she was, you do feel bad for her. And Gemma Adjutant, again, I don't know that's how you pronounce her name, she did a great job bringing this character to life. And of course, let's bring out the big guy that I mentioned earlier that I love, Dangerous Beans. Again, such an endearing rat. He's very wise, he's very optimistic, he cares for the peace that he wants to have between rats and humans. He definitely believes in the story about the whole island paradise, but when he does figure out, he doesn't get mad. He actually has a very calm. He's very smooth, and again, you do end up feeling sorry for him, and you really want him to succeed. In fact, many times throughout the movie, I actually forgot that Maurice was supposed to be the main character, or any others, because there are actually many points where Beans actually takes the center stage. Like when he goes up against the main villain of the movie, you actually feel the rivalry between the two, and it just makes me wonder, well, if you're going to focus more on this character, why didn't you just make him the main character? Seriously, he's definitely a character worthy of his own center stage, and again, I have to give props to David Tennant for bringing this character to life. Well done, David. You did me well. As for the other characters, well, they're not anything special, but, they do the job pretty fine. Maurice, as a main character, well, okay, I don't think he's that great of a main character, but as an actual character, I still think he's pretty good, because while he is a bit of a, egocentric loner and just wanting to look for nobody but himself, I did like his personality. He's very posh, he's very sly, he's very charming, and as Hugh Laurie actually put it, a bit of a psychopath. Yeah, he is a very streetwise cat, looking out for himself, just looking out for survival, but you do kind of see the progression he has to be more caring and loving to others. It's very endearing to look at that character, but again, you almost forget he is the main character, and I'll discuss that later, but he's pretty good. Hugh Laurie, great. Also, besides the rat, another big standout character, I have to say, is the villain of the movie. I think he's very, very cool. He's very, you feel the very, you almost wonder, oh, what's all the movements? I mean, you do kind of realize what he is in the beginning, but he has a very good sense of humor. You don't see his face, but he almost steals the movie alongside the rats, and David Thewlis from the Harry Potter films is great for playing this character. I mean, he has played a villain before in Wonder Woman, but in this movie, he's definitely good as a children's movie villain. One of the things that I will have to say about this movie is that there is a question that people would ask about this movie, considering what kind of genre this movie is, and if they didn't have that much, then it would fail. So here's that question. Is the movie funny? Because this is a comedy after all. Well, I didn't laugh when I first saw this movie, but after watching it again, I will admit, it did get some pretty big chuckles out of me. I mean, not the greatest, but, a few times. I mean, sometimes Militia's commentary does get a bit amusing, The rat, probably the biggest laughs in the entire movie, alongside the boss man, but, you know, I did like some of the self-awareness, and I don't know if this is actually true or not. I don't know what role he played, but I think this movie was worked on by the co-writer of Shrek. I think that's what he said in one of the trailers, and you could definitely feel the very self-awareness you feel in the fairy tale aspect of the movie, because that's almost like the same fairy tale aspect you had in Shrek. And the last thing I will say about this movie that I actually really liked was the music. I actually found it very unique and quite catchy. I like the songs and how they sounded, especially the last two songs in the end credits, Be Yourself and my personal favourite, Side by Side, written by Gabriella Applin? I hope that's how you pronounce her name. If not, I'll put her name right here and I apologise. But she did a great job singing those songs. However, while I will admit that I really liked this movie way more than I did the first time around, and yeah, there's some things that are really good, there are some things that are still not very good. One of the biggest problems I had with this movie, hands down, was the story. Wow. I mean, okay. I guess it's really a combination of both the story and the pacing, because this movie is really rushed. Seriously, it jumps from one scene to another like a heartbeat. Like, suddenly we're in this location, suddenly we're in this location, and the whole commentary aspect of the movie, it always seems to pop up now and again in the story, and it interrupts the flow of the story. Plus, holy moly, are there way too many plots! There's literally far too much going on in this movie. Maurice is trying to make a scheme to get some cash. There's some mystery going on in the town with the food. The boss man is, capturing, different rats. We don't know why, but we can tell he is kind of doing it in the movie. Militia is trying to prove that her stories are real. The rats are trying to rescue a character named Sardines. The rats are trying to deal with the fact that everything they know is a lie. The kids are going off to find this Pied Piper. Dangerous Beans is taking stage to stage and trying to work out his rivalry with the boss man. There's far too much going on in this movie, and because there's far too much going on, the movie can't pick which kind of story it really wants to tell at center stage. Is the movie supposed to be about Maurice and how he's growing as a character? Is the movie supposed to be about the rats? Is it supposed to be about Militia and Keith? What is the focus? Pick something, please. There are some entertaining parts in these stories, but they just don't focus. They almost feel like three completely different movies. Have you ever noticed that there is a character that's strangely absent from a lot of these scenes? Maybe the title character? Yeah. What I mean by that is that there are moments where he actually doesn't feel like the main character. You almost forgot he's even in the movie, and that's saying something because he is the title character. He's supposed to be the main character. So what? He seems to be left out a lot of the movie. Many times he's just walking side by side as the movie just tries to give him some attention with literally no effort of trying to give him attention. He has out of nowhere narration because you forgot he's even a part of the movie. In fact, one point he actually tries to remind the audiences, when he's narrating a little part of the story, trying to comment off to the audience that, oh, did you think that this girl is the one that can narrate in the story? Well, have you forgotten about me? Check out the title if you harbour any doubts. Even he's aware of it. It's almost like he's not meant to be the main character of the movie, but he loves being the main character so much and being the center stage, he's constantly trying to get back on camera. He actually tries to leave his group, and then he comes back later on in the movie, but between those two scenes, 13 minutes! Yeah, 13 minutes, and he has not appeared in the story. So, come on, man, you're supposed to be focusing on this character? If you're not going to give much focus on this character as you think you're supposed to be, why not just make the rats center stage? Because they're way more interesting than a lot of the other characters. Honestly, it reminds you so much about how Scooby-Doo seemed to be left out of the majority of the film Scooby-Doo Curse of the Lake Monster. He's the title character and you always forget that he's even in the film. That's saying something. Another problem I had with the movie that really annoyed me when I first saw it, and still kind of annoys me now, but still kind of a problem, is the comedy. This movie seems to have a self-awareness that this is a story, and also discussing about the different uniques of books, and while they can be amusing from time to time, the fact that it kept being brought up so many times and just like mocking about it. Oh, this is happening right here. This is happening like it did in a fairy tale. Oh, you see this? This is called a framing device. This is foreshadowing. Yeah, it really did bring the movie down for me, and you just like, not just shut up about it for 5 seconds. And speaking of that commentary joke, do you happen to know someone who's kind of responsible for why this joke doesn't work? Well, I'll tell you, it's the character of Maurice. So yeah, I'm kind of mixed on this character. I mean, when I first saw this movie, I hated her. She wouldn't shut up. She's constantly moving around, talking non-stop, and just won't give a break to my brain. Like, oh my god, shut up! What are you doing this? What did I ever do to you, Maurice? Now, she's a bit more tolerable, but still, I mean, her commentary just gets on my nerves many times. Like, she just won't shut up about what she's doing. I mean, I have a bit of endearment towards how much she loves books, but just the fact that she keeps bringing them up becomes grating time and time and time again. It just keeps going and going and going and going. I mean, I just didn't find her jokes funny. I mean, I liked hearing Emilia Clarke in an animated movie, but I'm not hearing any good writing or comedy out of her. And again, she talks so much in this, so because she talks too much, it is kind of hard to appreciate her performance. Like, she just tries a bit too hard to be hilarious. Plus, it's not just her annoyingness that gets on my nerves, it's also the fact that she kind of creates problems for a lot of people. Like, she ends up revealing about a book that thinks is a real island, but not really. And she almost puts the characters in dangers because she's trying to ignore that, and yet the movie's like, oh no, she's just being quirky. Like, I don't think I would hang out with a girl who would do that. And the last problem that I have with this movie is that, going back to the story, there are so many ideas and tiny little parts of the story that isn't really exist though in the story, but is never brought up any time and again. I mean, there's a whole lies reveal kind of story that is in the opening, but big shock, never brought up again. And honestly, like, I can't really get too mad because, you know, they don't focus on the lies reveal story very long. There's a whole reason as to why the rats and why Maurice can talk, and big shock, a lot of the time it's never brought up again. The fact that Maurice is the daughter of the mayor of the town, big shock, never brought up again. This story also has the wasted potential for Rob Brydon, because he shows up later on in the movie playing a character, and the character has absolutely no contribution to the story at all, besides, he has like a MacGuffin and we need to get it to take down the boss man. But again, it just doesn't really match up to a lot of the story, and it just feels like a little bit of a waste for Rob Brydon, because I've seen him in Gavin and Stacey and in the film Early Man, so he has a good potential of voice acting, but again, kind of a waste of his talent. But overall, guys, I'm actually very shocked as to how I actually pretty kind of like this movie. Yeah, the movie didn't win me over back then, but it totally has now. Because what I originally didn't like is how annoying it was and how hyperactive it can be and how the story just keeps bringing to a halt. Plus, I do have to acknowledge that this movie kind of feels familiar to the tale of Despero, with the whole rats food and cats and all that stuff. But actually, this movie actually kind of grew on me a little bit. It has great animation, great voice acting, great characters of rats, great music. Sure, the commentary of the comedy is very grating and not everything is explored, but I actually can tolerate it a bit more, and I enjoyed the movie. So I used to give this movie a 1.5 stars out of 5 because I thought it was pretty bad. But now, I'm actually going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's an enjoyable movie, and you know, if you do go in like not very expecting much, you might get a bit surprised. So, you know, I enjoy it now. I was wrong back then. I can see why people like the movie. Let's never talk about that little incident again. But anyway, what do you think about the movie? Do you like it? Do you hate it? And what's your favourite adaptation of a fantasy children's book? Let me know in the comment section below. And I hope to get more reviews done. This is the start of a brand new season of the Filming Daniel Reviews. And I'm Daniel, reviewing movies, TV shows, doing videos back to say the famous catchphrase I do at every single review. Peace out, man.